Thank you guys so much for having me. I love everything that you guys are doing at the platform, and it's honestly a pleasure to be talking with you guys.
Thank you so much. I know we did a written interview together on Studio Stories, and I wrote down, but you had mentioned that Shallow is a reference to an internal realization about mental health. And I was wondering, while creating this EP, did it feel like a bit cathartic for you? Was it a way for you maybe to like address certain things?
The release in itself was just honestly me addressing myself. So ever since I started making music, I just feel like there was a block, between me and putting out the actual work and connecting with people. And I think the whole of 2024, I've been sitting on music and kind of going through the same cycle I've, been going through of just like creating and deleting music, and everything just kind of came to a head. And I just had songs that I was sitting on, like a couple, and I was just like, you know what? I'm either going to make a project or I'm never going to do anything with this music thing. So I just decided to finish the project in the couple weeks span I had left before the holiday season kind of came around, and just put everything out.
Did you learn anything about yourself while you were creating this project?
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like the biggest thing I learned was just that it was possible. Like to put a project together, and everything that I felt, was so daunting, and all the pressure, it just didn't exist. So I'm just like, oh, this is actually possible. I can put together a project. People actually like it. I can continue to be consistent. So now I felt like that was just a door. Like I just opened the door for myself with that EP. I don't think it was the greatest project in the world, just because of the time restraints that I had, but it was so important to me because it was a door that I was just able to open for myself to be able to do bigger and better things in the future.
Yeah, definitely was like a stepping stone, which is super cool. Was there like a particular track on the EP that's your favorite, or maybe feels like the most personal to you?
That's actually a good question. I think I would say either the outro or track number 1. I finished both of those songs in January. I finished the outro, was the first song that I made on the EP, and then I started working on track 1, All I've Got. I think track number 1 is most important just because it encapsulates the EP as a whole. That track was actually trash. I had gotten rid of it, and I had gotten rid of like the project file in Logic Pro. It was literally like a trash track. And then I was able to, I actually couldn't even find it for a long time. I'm like, where is this? So when I did find it, it was an MP3 version of a trash throwaway track. And I was able to get it to my mastering engineer and kind of salvage it a little bit. But that ended up being one of the best performing songs on the EP. But in reality, like all I can hear is like, oh shit, like this is so imperfect. But it's all I had at the moment. That encapsulates the whole thing I was talking about, just being able to put this project out and really connect with people and go from there, and not really worry about anything else, but just putting it out. I think another important thing was I was going through a very lonely period in my life earlier last year, and I was just sitting in my apartment, really just bouncing these songs and ideas off of my own head and not really having anybody to share them with. When I started to share that track, someone I'm really close with that works in the industry in New York, and I just sent it to him, that scrap track that I ended up finding, just to see what he thought about it. And he was like, you have to put this out. And in my mind, I'm like that's insanity, like this. Yeah, so just kind of getting other opinions and kind of getting out of my own head and out of my own world and opening up. That's another reason why this track was important to the project as a whole.
That was actually one of the questions, and you answered part of it. I was going to ask, did any tracks that were on the EP take a different turn from what you had expected? So I know you said the first one almost didn't even make it on the EP.
Yeah.
Your songs that like kind of took a turn or a shift from like initially how you had planned maybe the song to sound?
Okay, I have a couple answers for this one. Just to start, the outro and the track number 1, All I've Got, I put them out in March on Spotify, and for like literally like I think less than a day, they were like available for 2 hours, and I took them off. So when it came to uploading it out all the way in November, like I couldn't even like with Spotify settings, I couldn't even like really market those the way I wanted to, because they already recognized them as release tracks. So I kind of had to highlight another song on the EP, and I'd say track number 3, I have 4 tracks finished on the EP, and I was messing around with the track Like That earlier in the year, and I wrote the lyrics from it, and I had already kind of made a demo for it, but I scrapped that one too. I didn't have any project file or anything for this one, so when it came time, it was like the last day before I wanted to submit the EP for mastering. So I was like, you know what, like this needs a 5th track. So found the production again and just re-recorded the whole thing and it ended like literally like in less than a day. So that track I felt like had a lot more potential if I would have had a lot more time with it, but I kind of proved to myself in that moment that it is possible to kind of recreate that same energy and re-record a song.
You have another song, Let You Go. And I feel like that song is kind of about like releasing something and moving on. There's also like romantic elements in some of your songs. So are these like personal romantic experiences or does it represent something else?
That's a good question because I feel like a lot of the music I've written so far is like, it sounds like it could be, speaking to a lover or somebody, in that position. But in reality, like I tell other people, like I'm just writing what sounds good. And what I found is the meaning always hits after the fact. It always does. Even for me, like I'm not writing these songs with anybody in mind or anything, but as soon as I write them, it always hits me. If not immediately, sometimes it takes time. Specifically for Let You Go, I found like that was a song about addiction.
Oh, okay.
And because when I hear the lyrics, it just gives that desperation to me of something that you can't, let go. And when I listen to it, I literally like the vision in my head was like an addict was singing it. So I just hear those lyrics, they connect like so vividly to that type of story or situation.
Yeah. So the final song, Still Alive, this also goes back to what you're saying about resilience and like perseverance. I think it's a really good song to kind of end the EP with. What message did you listeners to take away as they like hit this final track?
It's so crazy that I tried to release that as a single, and I think everything kind of plays like the way it's supposed to, because when I like had in my mind that this is a project, that was the outro, like without even a second's decision. I'm like, oh, that's the outro, like that's number 5. And it's so like it encapsulates the whole like idea of Shallow and everything, because I faced my fear and put a whole project out, and at the end of it, like I'm still alive, and not only am I still alive, but I'm like thriving. So
yeah, exactly.
Like when they hit that the track, it's like through all the emotion and anything that you felt or this EP made you feel, like at the end of it, like we're still alive, and it's time to get back to it. It was nothing. It wasn't scary.
Yeah, really cool. If you could pick any artist, who would you pick for maybe like a dream collab?
I would love to. I was thinking about this question like 2 weeks ago in my head, just like what would I say if this was ever asked. Is it okay if I give 2 answers?
Yeah, of course. You can give as many as you want. It's okay.
Okay. I would love to work with Sade. I feel like a track with Sade would just be insane.
She released a track last year, like end of last year, so I'm happy she's making music again.
Oh, I need to go tune into that because I did not hear it yet. I'll give like a past and present answer. For the past, I say I would love to collaborate in some way with Sade.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people who have enjoyed my music have reached out and said sometimes it felt nostalgic in a way. Remembering a time and place that maybe meant something to you. When I think of Sade, it just reminds me of growing up. My mom would play her songs and I just, be asleep or falling asleep in the back of the car, as a little kid laid out in the back seat. And I didn't know that like those are the seeds being planted for my music taste and like my nostalgic experiences. So just hearing her music just reminds me like of my mom and growing up as a kid, not really knowing what was going on, but everything was fine. To this day, like I'm just putting people on to her, and it's crazy that people don't listen to her in general, but I'm just putting people on, like, and just trying to keep that alive because I feel like she's definitely one of the most talented artists I've ever listened to. For somebody present day, I definitely have to go Childish Gambino or Donald Glover. Huge inspiration. I would just love to hop on a song with him and just kind of pick his brain, or just to kind of let go and just see what happened with that. I feel like our styles would definitely complement each other. Yeah. And that's someone I grew up listening to. I remember like in middle school, I was like the only one of my friends listening to Childish Gambino, and I was the weird kid. They're like, what are you listening to? Freaks and geeks. But I'm like, as a weird black kid growing up, I'm like vibing off this.
Was that weird? I thought it was normal. Like, that album was amazing. It had the song Bonfire on it and everything. Like, I thought it was good. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the best thing out. But even Camp and a lot of the music before that, some of the mixtape stuff that he was doing, it was just so different than anything that anybody was doing. And I feel like being in like, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, just having access to the internet and being exposed to another artist, and black artists specifically, that wasn't necessarily mainstream or rapping about the things that everybody else was doing, rapping about walking home from school and getting bullied and not being black enough for the black kids, and the experience with white friends. It's just everything is kind of hit at that time, and now like it aged so well. Like I always remind my friends from that time, I'm like, I put you on to Gambino. I put you on to Tyler, the Creator. Like, you guys cannot tell me anything. I was the only person listening to him, and I put you guys on. So they always respect that. So
yeah, Tyler. So what do you have planned next for your music journey? Are you planning on releasing more music this year? Maybe you'll do some shows. What's next for you?
Yeah, definitely. Releasing that EP was a door for me, and like I told one of my close friends, like I don't feel any of those same barriers or restrictions to releasing as often as I want to.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I'm definitely hitting on all cylinders right now. Like I'm in a zone that I haven't felt like I've been in before creatively. I have a couple singles that I want to start the year off with that I'm pretty close to finishing, so those are going to be out pretty soon. And then I want to release another project right after those. I'm just going with the flow, but also like I'm dialed in, and the goals I have and the heights I want to reach, I know that, you know, this is an important time for me right now to just kind of be consistent and not only release consistently, but also to, you know, show that I'm improving and I'm learning more about music and that I'm respecting it as well. And I feel like when I talk to people, artists or, you know, A&Rs or just people in the industry, I just want everyone to feel that energy that I feel, like how serious I take it, how much I respect the music, and that I can be consistent, that I feel like I have, you know, the vision for the future and what people could be listening to or should be listening to. I just want to make a statement this year. Yeah. So that's kind of, you know, where I'm at.
When did your music journey start? Like, when did you know that music was something that you seriously wanted to pursue?
So, actually, this is a good question. I grew up playing basketball. I was lost in middle school and didn't know what I wanted to do. And my cousin, he played basketball at a high level back out home. I'm originally from Chicago. So, you know, I just saw like my cousin playing basketball at a high level back in high school, and just kind of with the life he'd carved out for himself. And I was in middle school getting in trouble. I was skateboarding, and my grades were terrible at the time. And I just kind of wanted something to lock in on. So I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna play basketball. And I just hit my growth spurt too. I just went from like 5'4" to 5'11" in like a year. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hoop. So I locked in on that. And originally, like in middle school, I did not make either basketball team, but honestly that moment was key for everything that's happening right now. You know, getting cut from the basketball team in middle school, and just the fact that I'd worked so hard and it still wasn't enough, and the coach didn't particularly like me too. And I know everybody says that the coach didn't like me, but this coach actually did not like me. But I had spent that summer after middle school ended, I just, you know, locked myself in the gym and became like way better than I ever expected myself to be. And that kind of set the tone for, you know, high school and college. So I ended up playing a year of NCAA Division II basketball and quitting after that. But it was so crucial because I was living in San Francisco at the time. I was at an art school. I felt like me quitting basketball was a statement to myself that, oh well, like I went from getting cut from teams and you worked hard and you built yourself up to, you know, making a college basketball team. Yeah. And I think at that moment it was over for me. I'm like, okay, I don't know who I was trying to prove this to, but I don't think I want to play basketball anymore. I think I was trying to prove to everyone that I could do this. And at the end of the day, like these people probably never cared about me anyways, and probably for sure didn't, you know, like me or care about me. So I was just, you know, living for other people at that time. And when I quit the basketball team, it was the first time I really did something for myself. And so I was at this art school, like really depressed for like 5 months because I felt like, you know, from middle school to college, this was part of my identity. So for like 3 months, I was like just in my dorm crying, you know, just kind of feeling lost and depressed for a minute. Yeah. And then I locked in on trying to start a creative life and live creatively because I know that that's how I grew up, and I knew that that's, you know, how I was raised. You know, my father, he's creative in every sense. He used to write scripts and he would create these YouTube videos that were just so artistic for the time. I just grew up around that. And, you know, like I said, you know, growing up around music, you know, not that anybody in my family performed or created, but just I think that everyone I grew up with was like music lovers. So that kind of definitely rubbed off on me. I started out directing with film. I started out acting and directing actually, and I was, you know, just kind of put myself out there and started auditioning and was getting small roles in San Francisco and doing extra work and just things that like just opened my world up to something different. And I ended up leaving that school the year after, and when I got back home to my hometown, I bought a microphone. No, actually, I didn't even buy a microphone first. First, I had like a camera microphone that I had, and I ended up connecting it to like a Zoom audio recorder. And then, like, I went in my mom's closet for sound diffusion. So I'm just like timing myself so I can record, and then I'm gonna like kind of sync it up in post. So I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing at all. And then I was like, you know what? Let me upgrade. Let me kind of invest in this. At the time, I had no like hopes or ideas of posting it because at the time I'm so reserved. Yeah. Like I've been on social media media for a long time, and like no one had even heard my like voice. Like I'm not posting myself talking. Like if I'm on Instagram, it's gonna be a photo of me, and then that's it, you know. And I had no hopes of ever posting any of this music. So this is like 2019. I like have a Yeti mic, and I'm like, you know, making rap songs. Because my favorite genre of music is like hip hop. I grew up on 90s hip hop. That's my favorite genre. That's home to me. So I'm just like, I'm gonna be a rapper. I'm like rapping on YouTube beats with my Yeti mic, and I was just vibing. I was just creating. The thought to release music at all didn't even hit till January 2022. My birthday was coming up, and I was going through like a quarter life crisis, and I'm just like, you've been living your whole life, you know, afraid of putting yourself out there, or you know what could be. And it goes back to the idea of like, you know, the people that I'm worried about like never cared about me and never liked me. So these are just, you know, fighting demons in all reality. So I just told myself, you're gonna make a song and you're gonna put it out. Because in my mind, I'm the best artist ever that just hasn't been heard. You know, why do I need to, you know, remain in the shadows? I started working on my first single, Common Cold. And well, in reality, I had released a rap song before I released my first single.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I still have it somewhere, but I ended up deleting it the first day, and I'm like rapping about things that weren't in my life and talking about things I wasn't experiencing, and I'm just like, okay, this isn't me. So I literally deleted it the first day. I think it sounded dope though, but I'm like, it just wasn't me. It needs to feel like me. Then I released that. I shot a video for it, like out in the mountains near where I was living at that moment, and yeah, that kind of set everything into motion.
That's really cool. I think the most important thing is that you started, and it's crazy that, I mean, you really started only 2 years ago and everything already sounds this good. So that's a good step.
I appreciate that.
Do you think for some of your new tracks that you'll incorporate more rap and R&B together?
Yeah, and a lot of people tell me like, oh, your early stuff sounds like professional. You know, better than, they try to say it's, you know, better than maybe somebody's other starting music would sound like. But I definitely contribute that to those 3.5 years of me just making music on the Yeti mic and just kind of like building a sound, you know, hundreds of songs that nobody will ever hear ever, you know, unless I, you know, put them in my will or something like that. But it's just experimenting for those 3 years and letting myself bake. But also, it's funny you asked that about the R&B and hip hop elements, because I do feel like I'm circling back home, you know, where I started, and musically, you know, back to that R&B hip hop space, and combining it with what I've already done is just gonna create a sound that I think, you know, maybe no one's heard before, or maybe, you know, something new that people don't hear as often.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any final words that you want to leave your fans or the listeners with?
Thanks to everyone who supported and reached out and loved the EP and loved the music I've done in general. I'd say to anyone that listens to the music or is inspired by me in any way, just know that creation is so important, and collaboration and creation, all of these things are very important. And as we go into a time where I feel like the process of creation is kind of being put on the back burner and being substituted for things like, you know, technology and AI, which I feel like is a conversation of its own. I feel like I just want everyone to just realize that there's so much importance in the process of creation and writing, and you know, you learn more about yourself. If you're thinking about creating something and you're afraid to, definitely just do it. It's going to be worth it. You know, you're going to find out more about that situation or more about yourself through creation and the process of it, and find your tribe. Creation opens you up to people that like what you're doing and maybe have the same sensibilities as you and want to get to know you. So nothing bad can come out of creating. So just get started today.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time and going over the EP and everything. Obviously, I was a fan of your music when I first heard it, but yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I wish you the best of success for this year.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys.